here today as we're going live with our industry roundtable. We've got Todd Robinson from Vision Wheel. We have Carl Schubitzke, the president of Champ. We've got Chris Vanden Elzen, ProSpec racer, and then Ryan Beat is going to be joining us as well from the Pro 2 class. At Racer on Demand, I'm sure you're familiar with our online merch marketplace where we take your designs and we make merch on demand to order so that fans can put money back in your pocket. What you might not know is we also have a ton of racer resources behind the scenes, like this webcast, but also weekly blog posts. We've got discounted and free resources to help you grow your program. So this webcast is just an extension of that. We're really hoping that you can learn some tidbits and some actionable insights to take back to your race program and end up fueling your passion, turning that passion into a paycheck. And there's a variety of things we're going to talk about today to really build value in your program. The whole reason we're here is to talk about how to do that through an expanded racing footprint. And the people that we've invited here today are industry experts. We're not looking at this as just an argument that's been going around on Facebook and Instagram. Today, we're diving into why we're doing this, why it's important, and how you can capitalize on it. So that's why we're here. I'm going to kick it off to you guys to introduce yourselves. Todd, would you mind getting us started?
Sure, yeah, I'm Todd Robinson. As of December 31st of 2024, I was named the Vision Wheel brand manager. Prior to that, I was the national sales director of Vision Wheel. My roles have changed a little bit, but not really because the gentleman that was taking over the national sales manager position resigned 2 days later. So today I'm doing both of them, trying to focus on a budget that we manage and start the activations. We're 3 months into this. We've already had three big events, and so that's my background as it stands right now. The Reader's Digest version. One thing. Hi, Carl, Chris, and Amanda. Thanks for having me on. I think we're all getting a little antsy, a little anxious to get in the dirt and do some racing. So, that's my story as it stands right now.
Awesome. We're really excited to have you, Todd, and the expertise that you bring from the business side. Carl, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and introducing yourself.
Yeah, my name is Carl Schubitzke, and as Amanda alluded to, I'm the president of Champ Offroad. And if you don't know, I come from a racing family. My whole entire family. I started racing when I was 6. Pretty much raced my entire life all the way till 28, 30, both motocross and snowcross. Professionally, raced. Well over 30 weekends a year. Just always around racing. And then at the end of my career, I got a marketing degree and kind of went into construction and realized quickly that I love racing. I just want to be around racing. So I got a job with ISOC Racing, our parent company, and that's 15, 16 years ago now, and kind of overseen the snowcross, the snowmobile tour, but always came to off-road events. Always had a love for it because it's really, really cool. And then we were approached to kind of take over the series. We'll be going into our sixth season this upcoming summer. So again, just excited to be involved. And there's a million great stories, great people, in kind of every industry. But I just always have loved racing, and thank you for the time tonight to be able to just to kind of talk about a few things.
Yeah, we're excited to get your input, both from the champ side and also from what you've learned being in racing your whole life. So
Mm-hmm.
that's fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. Chris, would you mind just giving an introduction?
Yeah, I'm Chris Vanden Elzen, the ProSpec number 66 driver, VDE racing team owner. Um, Moved up from the ranks of sportsman racing, got into it essentially in a light buggy, and um, made my way through and moved into what is now what I'm in currently is ProSpec, and just continuing growing our program, learning more and more and trying to share everything with racers around us so we can all kind of elevate. My background, um, man, I could go far back, but real summarized. I was raised around short course off-road. My dad raced in the 80s and 90s, and then he got out of it. And as a kid, was always into cars. Got into things like competitive drifting, stage rally, autocross, lapping days, and then found my way back to short course off-road racing. So here I am, and I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Awesome. We're glad to have you. I feel like I always have you, but I'm glad that you're here and sharing your expertise. So thank you. So we're going to dive into some of the questions that I put together in an attempt to really get this value conversation going. And the first thing that I hear in this, debate back and forth on should we be going out west, should we be racing in a bigger footprint, is that in the past, racers could expect a series to pay them to travel outside their home region. But now, travel money and payouts aren't enough to sustain that racing career. So, how do you interpret this shift? And what does that mean for the racers, the series, and the sponsors?
You want me to take it or Todd or?
I think anybody can jump in.
Well, I mean, this is
go ahead.
focused right towards Carl. You run with it.
Yeah, no problem. Honestly, there's a shift, and it's not a good one. I mean, let's be honest. Like, if you really love racing and wanted to make a good living at it, that's like the perfect scenario, perfect world. But the reality is like, it's tough times. It's budgets are difficult and finding money. So like, supply kind of versus demand or whatever. And like before us, I think the most a series ever was together was 3 years, and now, we're excited to be stable, financially sound, and consistent, and going into our 6th year. And again, I know we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but that's kind of the whole idea of the reason for expansion, or the reason for some of the differences or changes that we're implementing for the future, is to hopefully bring money in. At the end of the day, like, bigger purses, help racers, help the venues, the tracks, the fans, like just keep it, keep this going, what we all love. Because at the end of the day, we all love it, and we want it to grow, and we want it to grow exponentially, and we want it to be what, people view as successful. And I think, a lot of the things, like, at least for the future of what I see, is like, that is a possibility. And we just got to get there. It takes time. Like, I knew when I first started, this isn't a quick fix. I mean, obviously it takes time, even though some people want like big drastic changes quickly. I knew that was like some of those steps would be a financial disaster, which it has in my predecessors. And our goal is to, like, again, maybe have 1 or 2 races outside the Midwest here, see how they go, and then, explore, okay, how can we help those events and the events in Midwest to grow? And how can we, raise purses? How can we make this sport again at a healthier state than what it currently is? And it's not in a bad state. Like, everybody in this day and age and culture is like, oh, the sky is falling, it's the end, and this and that. And it's so like, I try to be extremely positive and always have full type person of like, it is at the end of the day what we all love, and we're, it's still going, and it's cool to see great racing and great names and stuff. And it's cool when I go to the events to see families spending time together rather than doing something else. Because if we didn't have it, unfortunately, or we'd be maybe doing other things, and there wouldn't be those experiences that we all know and love and create memories, and keep us from coming back. So again, it's a tough situation, but that's just the reality we live in. Like, I'm not a fan. Like, I'm an honest person. Like, hey, I'll take it head on, and it's like, okay, well, let's try to fix it. Let's try to do some different things.
Awesome. I love that outlook.
I,
Go ahead, Todd.
yeah, well, I was going to say, I look at this 2 ways. I look at it from a sponsor side, my 8 to 5 everyday hours. I look at it as how can I push the brand out there? How can we get an ROI? And then on the fan side, how can we make this cooler? How can we look at getting 20 Pro 4s, 25 Pro 2s? The spec class is something that the concept is great. It's just not succeeded all the way there, but there has been victories in that class. One, you guys are flying around, with manual transmissions. Attaboy, that's great. Uh, and talking to you guys, obviously, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Chris, but everyone says that those trucks are super fun to drive. It's back from the old Pro Light days of the 4 cylinders. When you take a look at the icons, all they used to drive the Pro Lights, and no one looked at it as a feeder class. They looked at it as, oh my gosh, that's fun. Speaking of Pro Lights and the Pro Light guy, hey Ryan, how you doing?
Hi guys. Sorry, give me a minute.
No worries.
Computer guys, you can tell.
Yeah. Well, guys that come in first go to podcast last, so it's all good, buddy.
That works.
But to continue my thought, I look at it. We, as a company, we look at it. What kind of ROI, and we would. And I don't want to make this glass half empty conversation, because we all want the sport to grow. So I'm going to come at this glass half full with full disclosure. We don't, as a whole, as a company, support the series. We support a couple racetracks and drivers. And that's a conversation, now that I'm in this position, Carl and I will have when we sit down and talk about 2026, because this year's budget's wrapped up. But I'd love to support the series. We're fully invested in the series. We've been in here, I think this is our 10th year supporting short track. We started Crandon first, and then we gravitated towards the West Coast. But we always stayed in the Midwest. That's where our home base is, and that's where we're going to continue to put our advertising and marketing efforts at. But I think the biggest thing to look at is we need to look at our feeder class. You guys are doing a good job with the spec class. I mean, we can see guys that were in the buggies a couple years ago. I don't know how many of the count are now riding in Ryan's stable under the Pro Light banners. Some of them are Pro 2s. Look at Johnny Holcher. One, I don't know how he fits in a race car anymore. The kid's a draft, but he's racing everything. And I remember when he was a lot, half size and running in the trucks or running in the buggies. Look at all the guys. Polvordi's the same way. Haley Deegan. I think Ricky G was running in those things too. So the support to get that feeder class up is there. What we need to really pay attention to is, where's the feeder class for the guys paying money to get into the gate? Where's the excitement there? These kids, and whether we have kids or you have kids or I have kids in that 19 to 24 to 31 age group, but we need to get them out of the, away from these screens, away from the phones, and get them out in the dirt so they can smell it, taste it, feel it. You get all the senses if you get them into that environment. We just need to figure out the better way of doing it. And I'll just jump right to the best way of doing this. The show has got to be good. They've got to come out and they've got to see some competitive racing, which means, look, I'll just say it. These guys, Ryan, Chris, you guys have to afford to not worry about, if I only have one transmission, or this is my last transmission. I've got no underdrives left. This is my last block, blah, blah, blah. I need to go fast. I need to win the race. I can't worry about, can I afford to go to the next race in a couple of weeks? And I think that's a situation that we're in. Heck, I know Ryan and you've had this conversation with me. I've had it with every one of our teams. And we would love to support. I'd love to be the guy that says, here's my checkbook, have at it, go buy another motor, go buy another whatever, hire 2 more people to do a better prep in the track, go to the track and do some testing. We need to get that done. It needs to be purses. It needs to be excitement. And we need to get that feeder class to the races. We know, all of us know how to do it. We just got to get on the same team and go in the right direction.
Yeah, I love that. And the competing view that you have there, maybe not competing, but the alternative view is that you're really looking at that ROI. So Ryan, I know that you just jumped on through some we're discussing kind of the shift in how racers are no longer depending on travel money and payouts in order to get out to new places. And there's definitely been a shift from how that has been in the past. So if
Well,
you wouldn't mind
that's
just giving
partially
an
true.
introduction. Oh, sorry.
Part of that statement is partially true because on the West Coast, when that one event that they did, there was only one event ever that they gave us a travel person that or travel money, and that was to go from the West Coast to Wheatland, Missouri. That's the only time in the 15 years that I've been racing that they've done it. So it happened one time, 1 year, and then that was it, right? Like Lucas did a good job, and they said, "Hey, we're going to help you guys this first year. Beyond this first year, it's up to you guys to figure it out, right?" And so that was a successful thing. I mean, it was cool. It did help the racers start to travel, right? And that's when you saw the sport really starting to grow. But it wasn't something that lasted forever. So it's not something that I don't feel that Carl or Champ by any means has to look at doing from now until never, right? Like or forever. So partial of course, as a racer, we'd all like that travel budget, right? But there's other ways to do it. And truth be told, as long as there's something of value that we can sell, us racers can sell it. We don't have to all rely on this series, right? But what we need from the series is just a platform that we can go out and sell, something of value that we can go out and sell, right? And that's all that there is, that I feel that there needs to be. There's a strong TV package. We got a killer race schedule, that hits some different demographics, that hits some different regions, to where these brands can feel that they're getting in front of new faces and new customers, new markets. We'll be able to sell the sponsorship. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I love
Yeah, well,
that because it really talks. Oh, go ahead, Todd.
well, I was gonna say he hit it right on the head with the deliverables. I know, and again, I don't. I'm not gonna make this an argument. I'm gonna talk from my side right now. But behind the paywall on Flow TV, that doesn't help us out. And the reason why I'm saying that, nothing against Flow TV, because if I had some cousins that did sprint cars and quarter miles, midgets down in Tennessee, I'd be all over because that's the only way I could look at that. But it's hard for these guys to digest behind that paywall to watch the racing. And again, I'm coming from a fan. The reason why I have it is because we support it, and I like to play it in the booth. And when I'm not at the track, obviously I need to pay attention to what's going on. It's my job. But as a general fan, I wouldn't spend the money for it. And I'll equate it to Dave Cole's King of the Hammers. When he does his live screen, that eliminates so much workforce. People are just sitting there at their jobs watching it all damn day, and me including when I'm not on the lake bed. And it's been like that for a while. So it's hard for us, and put my sponsor hat on. It's hard for us to gather value when you're behind the paywall for that part of the deliverables.
Yeah. Chris, do you have anything to add on this question?
Yeah, so I think the big thing Ryan kind of alluded to a little bit is we have to take a look at not only what, how do I want to put this? Instead of looking at what is somebody else going to do for me, we have to really be able to step up for ourselves and learn how to do things for ourselves. And what I mean by that is we have the series, we have this platform. The best thing we can do at this point is try to truly work with the series and work with our different events that we will be going to. I mean, I know there's a lot of controversy over Glen Helen, hence part of this conversation. Um, but if we look at it this way, if we invest into things, if we put ourselves out there at least once and try to do it properly, go out there and say, okay, who's local that I could connect with and who could I work with? Ryan and I have had this conversation before about this. Who is out there that I can go and represent and maybe work with and get single event return on for them. So if we do that and we have multiple racers that go and seek that and do that kind of thing, it's going to make us more successful. Different views, different points on it. I get it. But into it saying you have to do everything for us, I think we're going to run into issues in general, and we're not really going to grow. So I say, maybe I'm insane. I'm not sure, but I definitely I want to go after it. I want to go get it. I want to be able to expand. I want to get the bigger budgets. I want to work with companies that want to expand and regionally also want us out there.
Well, like I said on the Impulse podcast, I know it's kind of a little bit out there, but just look at the bare facts of how many brands support our sport that are based out of the West Coast. I mean, I counted like 37 just without trying. And when you look at, like, when I mean brands that support our sport, I'm talking brands that spend money with a team or spend products, because it's the same thing as, to a business. Sending somebody product or money is essentially the same thing, right? It still cost them something somewhere. So you look at that, there's like 37 brands on the West Coast that actively participate in our sport of short course. I feel like that number is going to keep dwindling if we don't get back in front of them, show them that the sport's still there, show them that the sport's still alive. Because at the end of the day, those 37 companies are the ones that are keeping short course kind of alive right now, at least from a professional aspect, So if you just look at that bare fact that's the truth of the matter, how many brands actually support. I'm not saying we need to race on the West Coast all the time by any means, but I am saying that it is good that we step back into that market, from all the way from the Baldwin days through the Lucas days. I can't name a more valuable time from, if you just compared the two. I don't like comparing the coast, right? Like you call it the Midwest or the West Coast, right? But you look at how many teams professionally did it and the amount of sponsorship. I mean, the sport was crushing it when it was on the West Coast. It's not like there was a lack of sponsorship there. I mean, there's 15 professional teams that were all professionally funded at the time. You look at it now, and I mean, truthfully, I think there's maybe 5 of us left. So
Yeah.
when you look at that fact, I mean, the West Coast has always been strong. Is that the go-to end-all be-all? By no means, but we just have to look at some of these markets, and look at some of the things that are really going to increase our value. One of them is TV package, the paywall. I've heard from a lot of my partners and a lot of partners that they weren't happy about the paywall. I would like to see, I guess, the numbers to see if really being on Flow really helped us compared to when you guys did at Facebook Live, Carl. I thought you guys crushed it. That was like some of the best TV package and some of the most amazing numbers I've ever seen inside the sport of short course. We were seeing gigantor numbers. Like, it was very, very impressive. And then, I haven't had a chance to look at what it is now with Flow, but not to take anything away from Flow. I don't feel like us as a sport are at the point now where we can, or at the point yet where we can tell people that they got to pay to watch us, right? Like, when we're at the level of Supercross, or that big, yes, then at that point, but we're still trying to get people in the door. Come see our show, get in the door. Like, that's how you get people in the door, is you make it affordable for them. When they got to go spend $150 to get them in the door, they're not going to be too interested in seeing or learning about what our sport has to offer,
For sure.
Well, there's also, let's talk about technology. How can we make short course racing cool? Technology. I think that there's some ideas that we can use, like desert racing. Brandon Walsh did something cool about 3 years ago. I think you guys remember the Anago race. I believe was the first one, was on the same weekend as the 500 that weekend. And Brandon Walsh had the first Starlink mobile in his truck and was doing in-truck live stream from Baja, through Baja, the whole thing. And
Yeah.
when the races weren't on, we were playing that in our booth in Anigo, and we had a crowd. I mean, hell, Brian, you were sitting there. We were all watching in between the races. Oh, what's going on? So, and I know, obviously, this goes back to the blank check. Yeah, Todd, no problem. Write us a check, and we'll call it the Vision Wheel. Pick your guy. You can go and, let's say I'm a Ryan Beat guy, so I want to see Ryan's front camera. I want to hear his
Live in-car.
interactions with the. Yes, exactly. If we could do something like that, that ties this feeder class and that puts it in their roundhouse. They know about technology beyond the screen. All right, I want to see what Keegan's doing. I want to see what CJ's doing. Why is Cole upside down? Well, let's watch him for a second. You know, things like that. Not to
Yeah.
don't want
Yeah.
Cole to be upside down at all, but I think if we can come up with something like that to bring technology to, we can make it fan friendly. I mean, look, the Midwest fans are great. They really are. You're not fans, you're family and friends at some point in time. If you go to 2 races, you're ingrained with the culture. So if we can get them more involved technology wise, I think that's going to be a home run. If we make it interactive, and again, the technology is getting really close to being able to do that, so you can pick which guy. I think that is a complete home run. I mean, you take sim racing and compare and match it up with real live racing and the iconic tracks that you guys go to. And if you're going back to, Glen Helen, Wheatland, my hands in the air. Wheatland's one of my favorite tracks to watch racing because it's got aspects of Crandon, Bark River. It's got the old bull ring out in Reno. It's got the crossover jump. That's awesome.
Big jumps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask Amputi and Corey Hart about big jumps and breaking trucks.
Yeah, there's big jumps there. I mean, and that's, we live in such an extreme world these days, right? Like when we go to Wheatland, that's such a fan favorite because when these trucks are flying through the air 150, 60, 70 feet and they're 30 feet in the air, it's quite like a spectacle to see. It's quite entertaining.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm
as
saying.
you
We
guys are
need to get
talking-
that in front of more people. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're good. As you guys are talking, I do want to make sure we continue to think about this expanded footprint. And what I'm hearing a lot of is new audiences. How do we get more eyes on the sport? How do we get into new markets? And I think that transitions us well into the next question, which is Carl. Has been in the Midwest. This year, the series, as we know, is expanding to Missouri and California. I what decide now was the right push into these new markets. And then once you go through that, I'd love to hear from everyone what you think would this to be a success.
Well, I mean, it was kind of inevitable. I mean, at the end of the day, Wheatland was such a racer fan favorite. It was such a big part of short course off-road racing. We wanted to go there even before this past year, but we're excited to be back there. And then kind of what drew us to California was something like Ryan hit on, of like there was a time, and I remember it, like where West Coast racing was just flourishing, and there's a lot of racers and families that still have cars, and like it's kind of like a two-step thing. It's like, okay, well, we want to keep it out there, or keep the the families that are involved in short course off-road, and not to have them sell all their trucks and go into different different things. So like one, we want the racing to continue out there since there isn't like necessarily a series or anything, and then two, like definitely going into our 6th year and making the series healthy and making payouts bigger and making all these changes that obviously benefit and grow the sport. From a sponsorship standpoint, you have to expand. I mean, it's just kind of reality of like if you're a big corporation and you have races about 100 miles away from each other, they're selling to the same market. Now, granted, it's a great market, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, like if we truly want healthy purses and things like that, and in order to get big companies involved, it does have to be a bigger reach. It does have to be a bigger footprint, and that's the feedback I've gotten from all the people I've worked with. And people argue, well, TV and live stream, they expand that footprint, but at the same time, it's not quite the same. So I think at least for this year, the reality is like I view a success as just putting on good racing that the people that come and experience it enjoy it, so that we can continue it long term. And if it goes extremely well, then we can do some really cool things for the future. And again, back to just all the common goal of, hey, how do we make the sport that we all love better? And whether you agree with, and I understand if you can't make it, I understand if you don't agree with it. I understand that everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but mainly being in the Midwest and trying a couple different markets is a positive thing. And honestly, if they fail, then like at the same time, I'm not afraid of failure. Like, hey, Glen Helen might fail, but I'm willing to try it because I don't think it will. I think it will be a success, and I think a lot of people will hopefully come out, and hopefully we get some sponsors to help support the racers for it and for the future. So I just, again, always want to try to look at the positives and think, hey, hopefully this helps and hopefully it does well.
Carl, on that Glen Helen race, what is your go-to-market plan with that? How are you going to let people know that short course racing is back in the West Coast and specifically Glen Helen? What's your plans for that?
Well, we have a agency of record that puts together like basically a marketing plan. I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say we're not doing like traditional, but it's mainly gonna be like a big 6-week out, 8-week out plan, and to get the word out, talk to different companies, even do some incentives and promotions. Like Ryan had some really cool ideas. Because again, we want it to be a success. We want to bring people, we want to make them know that the event is in town. So come and check it out. But that would be, just a big marketing plan. That's
Well, because what I was going to say is, obviously we have a customer base out there.
Yep.
And if there's any ideas or anything that we can sit down and, maybe get someone out to say Cartex or, an ORW location for a couple of days to do signing, something like that to gain some attention. We'd like to help you with that, even though we technically don't support the series directly, but we'd love to get more people out there because Ryan will tell you he's been out at the West Coast. That fan base is there. I think they're anxious to get back to seeing some good racing out there.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we'll get a good show because I think they'll show up this year. But if it's not a good show, I fear going forward that we're going to have any traction at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, West Coast is tricky. Like
yeah.
It's tricky because there's so much stuff going on that you're battling. But like, me and Carl have had some in-depth discussions. Our Glen Helen races always absolutely crushed it and sold out when they were night races. Friday night, Saturday night races always did so well there. And it didn't matter the time of year, they would sell out. People would, but when you would try to do it middle of the day, nobody would show up, right? They had too much going on, lives going on, kids' soccer games, whatever the situation may have been. They wouldn't show up for daytime stuff, but nighttime stuff, they would absolutely crush it. And one thing that Lucas did that I applaud them on, that we may want to look at, is they did, like a media blitz, either the week before or the week of the race, where they'd invite all the news stations out and they'd take some of the broadcasters for the rides in the 2-seaters and they'd do a whole morning show around it. And that alone would pack the stands, like just that event. Oh, we saw it on, I saw it on the news this morning and people, or heard about it on the radio, and everybody would show up based on that. So like, I agree with Todd. If we don't do it right, yeah, it may be a struggle, and I'm not sure if it'll be a good thing for next year. But if we can capture and do all those things this year with like a media blitz and the news and the radio ads, I think we'll crush it.
Yeah, because I guess the big question is, how do we get some of the inventory of the park Pro 2s and Pro 4s, even though a little bit old, long in the tooth? You get some of these guys behind the wheel. How do we get Rob Mack out there? How do we get Empudias back out there? How do you get Bryce back out there? I mean, we can go down the list of all these guys that are tremendous athletes, tremendous teams, and have a huge fan base. How do we get them there? I mean, you mentioned the 2-seater. Been talking with Cole a little bit on, getting that 2-seater out at other events. So how do we get, the streams to cross to make sure we get as many eyes on that as we can? Because if we can do, if we can do that, man, those guys out West, I don't want to say that'll float your whole series, but man, there's a lot of eyeballs out there. And Ryan is right. There's a lot of competing a lot of competition for discretionary dollars. I will say the difference between West Coast and the Midwest stuff is the Midwest, those guys start showing up, the fans that is, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and they don't leave till they sober up Monday morning or Sunday night late. In the West Coast, there's more fans. They show up 2 hours before the race, walk right past everyone's booth, grab one beer, watch the race, and go home. There's a hell of a lot of them, and they're rabid fans. They just don't make it a weekend because they've got the ocean, they got the mountains, they've got, whatever. They hop in their UTVs and go shooting through Glamis and all the cool stuff that they can do there. And again, I'm bringing this up to make sure we have to put on a great show out there to hold their focus. And I can equate that to my daughter's got 2 twins that are 6 months old. They don't have a big attention span. So it's like getting all them in the stands and keeping them occupied.
For sure.
So Carl, is there something that we could, as racers, do with the series itself to make this better, make this bigger, help ourselves, help the series at the same time? What is there that we can do to make the actual Glen Helen race? Obviously, Ryan alluded to it, Todd alluded to it, going out there and doing other things. You also kind of brought up going out to different areas, and that's one thing we're also trying to do, is go out there and push some different companies that are in that area and help them or help get a return out of it, but also work with the company to help it be more affordable for us. So what is there like that we could do? Because at this point, a lot of racers saying, I guess for me, I would really like to know that we can, I guess, collaborate on this.
Sorry, you were kind of cutting out there, but I think I got the gist of it. I think it just, at the end of the day, we're greater in number. Like Todd, it would be amazing, if he could share the event with customers, or even the racers, like working closely together on just communication about the event. Obviously, you have a large number of followers. XYZ has a large number of followers, and just creating awareness and working together. And then on top of it, we definitely want to do a media blitz, and hopefully we can get some stations out. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to need, at the end of the day, you guys are the amazing show. So if we could have like trucks on site, or even giving, like in the past, like a reporter a ride around the track, or just even doing an interview, it's a lot more credible and cooler coming from you guys rather than like somebody from the series. And again, just trying to, I think, be positive and join together and create awareness for the event. And I think, good things can be accomplished that way.
Sure. So on that, I mean, I don't want to keep dragging this out by any means, but would you say that you're open to the idea of finding, if somebody comes to you and says, hey, Carl, is there anything that you have that could help us come out there? Or I have this idea, but I need a little bit of your assistance on this. Is Champ willing to help with that? I'm not saying financially, just with the networking or the connecting of everybody.
Absolutely. Like literally, we just had a conference call with a driver yesterday about, ride-alongs, because one, it can help his sponsors, it can help our sponsors. So like, again, I'll tell you if we can't do anything, because, I'm honest, but at the same time, like, hey man, we're all in this together. So if it helps you and benefit and I can do it, like, why not? I don't want to put up any walls or anything that restricts, anyone trying to grow the sport. I mean, obviously there's there's just conversation to be had of like, okay, well, what do you want to do and everything like that. And like I said, if we can't do it, I'll tell you. But at the same time, like, it would be awesome. Like even on a day before practice or whatever, you had a corporate event of one of your sponsors out on the track. And if we have insurance on the track or something, like having them do some test rides again, like we're all in this together, like we all got to be positive and try to grow it together. And I think, some of the best ideas just come from, everybody being involved.
Here's an idea that we were talking about for Crandon, talking about getting other people involved. One of the teams that we sponsor is Scott Goforth. If you guys are familiar with the SRRA, which is Clyde Bynum's Rock Bouncer series down in the Dirty South down there. If you guys are familiar with that, they look like the vehicles that they're driving are just incredible. They make an Ultra 4 truck look like a minivan. These things look like zombie killing machines, and it's so fun to watch these things go up the hill. So what we're going to do for Crandon, we're inviting Scott to bring his Rock Bouncer out, and it's going to be in the booth. And then it's a 2-seater, so we're working with Marty in the track to get ride-alongs in this zombie killing machine. And then we're trying to recruit an Ultra 4 guy and do a bouncer Ultra 4 couple laps in the back of Crandon to do a little grudge match race, sort of what they used to do at King of Hammers at night. They don't do that anymore. Scott actually won the Holly Shootout Challenge, I think the second year before they closed it down. So again, in trying to get that fan base looking at, short course, because I know that you guys talked about a couple years ago racing in Atlanta. That'd be great. That'd be awesome, because once you get those guys down there and you see what these trucks can do, there's going to be a conversation going, how much is that Pro 4? Let's go build one and beat these Yankees, because there's hillbilly money down there, and these guys love horsepower, and they're going to want to come up, and they want to go to Wisconsin. They're coming out to the east, the West Coast anyway with King of Hammers. So for them to get involved, I think you're going to have 5 to 8 good trucks being built in the next 2 to 3 years if you can get into that market, because everyone that sees that down there, we're in Green down there. Our headquarters is in Decatur, Alabama. That's a huge untapped market for all of us to grow our brands and grow the series. You need to get out there. You need to invite some of these guys up at those races and show them what the Ultra 4 stuff can do on these tracks. And you're going to start seeing a bunch of those guys from down there, and we're going to start getting races down there, whether it's back at Red Bud, which ain't really down south. That's a huge draw, down to Atlanta. Get with Clyde and talk to him about some of the off-road parks that they race at. We're just at there's funny names for these things. There's Dirty Turtle, Slippery Nipple, a whole bunch of off-road parks down there that they'll build you a track. Let's go.
Yeah.
And again, I'm oversimplifying it. I get that, but again, it's just for spitballing here. That's a good one to look at, to gaining more market and more people to look at the races.
No.
Awesome. Well, Todd, I know that you're here kind of from that Vision Wheel standpoint of supporting racers who travel footprint. And I'd love for the others on the panel about how you've built value your sponsors, both from the racer and the series standpoint.
Again, you were breaking up a little bit, but I'll be Carl this one, and I think I understand what the gist of the question was. If I go off track, just let me know. But I think you're asking, when we support a team compared to the series, how do we look at the ROI and how can we help out? I got to be good at looking at the teams as families. And so all of the support that we do, and I feel bad because Ryan's not on anymore. We used to support Ryan. We don't anymore. But I still think of him as a good friend of mine, and I'm glad he found a good wheel home with my other buddy that owns that other wheel company. I won't mention it because I don't want to. So, but I'm glad he's got a home, and good. It's good for competition. But I would love to be able to add a zero to each one of the checks that we write to these guys, because then they can afford to go to Glen Helen. They can afford, to be fully funded. Because here's the thing, what I see, and I'll just talk out loud real quick with this. Crandon, everyone goes for Crandon. It's the Cup, win checkers or wreckers. How many of those guys can afford to do that and get to Glen Helen if they blow up something? That's a fear that I have. So I'm trying to support those teams as much as we can. We're going to do some stuff up at Bark River. We're going to partner up with Brian Heitley at Race Driven to go up a couple days early to do some customer appreciation stuff at the store up in Escanaba. Obviously, a couple of our teams are going to bring their trucks down there, do a little taco truck, to sort of get people excited because, those fans start coming in early in the week because it's a whole weekend adventure for them. So we're going to try to tie that together just to, get more involved with the town, the sport and the team. So we do stuff like that. Also, well, I'm always trying to think of, out of the box stuff. A couple years ago, we took Keegan and Tito from Impulse Media down to San Felipe, the 250, first time that those guys got a chance to go down to Baja. So that was the first race of the year. The last race of the year, we put together a team. Kyle Ahrensberg from Vision Canopies, Doug Matag, and Keegan ran the 1,000, the backwards 1,000 in one of Doug's really super fast Polarises. And this is, two of those guys never ran in Mexico before. Well, actually, Keegan and his co-driver, they never ran in Mexico before. So what they do, they gave them the hardest part, the longest part. Oh, and at night, have fun and go north. That's all you got to do, and you win the race. Well, they finished. So we did this whole big thing again, trying to get, Keegan's fans, looking at a different race series so we can just get more people involved. And the same thing with the guys on the West Coast or down south paying attention to desert racing. Here's Keegan Kincaid, he's Mr. Crandon. We'd love to do something like that. We were just talking with Matt Martelli to try to put together a short course team for the Mint next year, to get maybe Keegan, CJ, Jimmy Henderson. We've also got some other guys, some other influencers. We'd love to get a team together and go compete at the Mint and do it based off of, hey, here's the short course guys. We're going to come in here and race with the desert guys. Why don't you all build a Pro 2 and Pro 4 and come race with us too? So we try to do a lot of that cross promoting and take into account, the sponsors or the series that we're trying to help, the teams that we're trying to help to gain more people to get in the stand so we can all go faster, longer.
I love that outlook of being able to look at the crossover. There's value in more than just the dollar signs and linking those series together, linking your brand to those series in itself has value. So, Carl, I'm curious, as you are working with sponsors on the series side, how do you see providing value to sponsors through an expanded racing footprint?
Well, it's everything. I mean, because again, it's I spent the entire week last week with the U.S. Air Force, and they're looking at recruits across the entire United States. So if you only have events in one state, it's tough for them to gain recruits. But now that we have events in different locations, expanded footprint, the conversation is completely different. And the same goes for a lot of companies I've been talking to that haven't been on board. And again, I hope to get them on board. Of imagine if you did run a company that is nationwide. Of course, you want to be in new markets, you want to reach new customers, and you want to expand your. And that's the whole idea, premise behind marketing and advertising. So, like, even it's good if you're in one location for a local company, but at the same time, that's the kind of the whole idea and goal behind expanding the series and bringing a bigger footprint to keep the conversations positive and get some companies involved now that maybe haven't been because of a different reach. And, and again, I'm not going to sugarcoat or lie. Like, I'm like looking at New York long term, I think out east would be great. We have an event out there on the snow side and it does extremely well. The fan base is there. The people are there. There's companies there. So again, but when I say that, but then I don't want to like hurt anyone's feelings of like, oh, they're just thinking about bigger picture and they're going to forget about us. Like, absolutely not. Like, that's not who we are. I mean, the goals of these things are to grow and make the sport healthy. Are we going to forget about like where we came from or anything like that? Absolutely not. We're still going to like obviously try to provide the best racing in the Midwest that we can. So it's just, trying new things and and expanding the, I guess, deliverables to these companies, and that really helps with different markets, new people. So I mean, it's again, it's kind of not common sense stuff, It's like it makes sense.
Hey, Carl, speaking of common sense, I want to just ask if there was ever this conversation. And again, I'm not putting you on the spot. This is not my fan hats on. Was there a conversation at all, knowing that you guys are going to do Glen Helen? I know you talked about putting together the race at the Mint, and then obviously coming back into the Midwest with Missouri. Was there ever a conversation about, hey, let's go do the Mint, and then the next month we can do Glen Helen, then we can do Wheatland, and then that way everyone from the West Coast can go out to the Midwest can go to the West Coast, hit these races, and then come back. That would save a lot of time, money, and energy, and we can get some more eyeballs on that. Would that something? Because obviously, I wasn't in any of those part of those conversations, but I'm sitting over in the corner going, why in the heck didn't you do that? Because I know I talked to Cole Mamer, I talked to Jim Beaver, Ricky's dad. All these people said, I got room for 6 or 7 trailers, leave it here. You use our shop, prep this, prep that. So was that a conversation? And if it was a conversation, I don't asking you to give us your secrets why it didn't happen, but is that a conversation we can have for next year possibly?
No, for sure, it's on the table. So we knew we were going to Wheatland well in advance, and we knew we wanted an event in May, and that worked well for them. But then out west, it would be great to do like an out west swing. So maybe for 2026 and beyond. But I also do like end of September to California. If it's no secret that motocross is done at that time, and that market kind of doesn't have a lot going on. It's kind of a lull time. So the chances of like in May having a off-road event against, Hangtown and everything like that, it's hard. We're trying to draw from a lot of the same people. I feel it's that racing enthusiast, that motorsport enthusiast. So like, I do want to see how September goes. I do think it's kind of aligned well. A lot of the companies don't have other events going on that we hope to bring out for like corporate parties and stuff, get them to experience Glen Helen, to get them experience off-road. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense on paper, but it's gotta, we gotta see how, Wheatland plays out. If they're happy with me, if they want to go later, because at the end of the day, somebody's going to have to go in September. So is Wheatland willing to go in September? Is it harder with school starting in September there? All those, there's a million different variables and things that come into the conversation. But in this certain instance, we knew we wanted to go to Wheatland. We knew there was, obviously talks of South Dakota. And then after, Wheatland was kind of done, then we kind of found out, okay, Wheatland or Dakota isn't going to happen. So we do still want to expand the footprint. So we worked with a couple other venues, a couple other states and stuff like that. And Glen Helen just kind of fit. So it is, a possibility for the future, because that makes sense. But then again, let's say the flip side, end of September is not really a lot of, events going on in September, and it does extremely well. It'd be a hard sell to be like, well, this event was just a big success at the end of September. Why wouldn't we keep it? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that that's going to be the case or any way, shape, or form, but it is a good thought. I mean, there's obviously just a lot of other variables, but I think it can happen. Like, why not?
How many of the teams are you expecting to show up at Glen Helen, percentage wise? All of them? 50%, 25%? And I'm asking this question, fan hat on. I haven't talked to any of our teams.
To be honest, like as a series, like if a racer can't make it because of money, like I understand. I'm not like forcing anyone. My job is to get good incentives for a good year-end payout. But at the end of the day, if a racer can attend, like I get it too. Like I'm not saying you have to go or you're going to be scrutinized. Well, you didn't go to Glen Helen, so we're going to look at you different. Absolutely not. Like I completely understand. So, I mean, like again, it's new, like if I could tell the future, I'd be a lot smarter and richer man, like you can't make projections like that in an accurate basis. Cause it's like, Well, it depends on how teams are doing. Let's look at literally the economy. How these teams' business is doing back home. Are they going to have enough money at the end of the year? If it goes well during the summer, maybe they have the extra money. Maybe they can afford to go to California. I mean, there's just so many different variables. If they're in the points or not in the points, and there's going to be some racers that from out west that just want to take part in it. And I think there is, like, in working with a couple of, local people and stuff like that, there might be trucks that just race Glen Helen, which would be a good thing too as well. So it's tough to speculate and put a number on it when at the end of the day it wouldn't be accurate in my opinion. I mean, time will tell.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I think the majority of those guys are going to probably decide September 5th or 6th if they're going.
Yeah, and rightfully so. Like, honestly, maybe they have a good summer and they, oh, we decided to go or whatever. I see that all the time. And again, I can't stress it enough. If you can't make it, I understand. If you don't have the money, it doesn't mean you don't support us. It doesn't mean we're going to look at you any different or anything like that. We're just trying to do something different, try it. And if it's a success, well, then we'll explore it more. And if it's not, well, then we learned and, we'll go a different path.
Does anyone know, is that the same weekend as either Sand Sports or the Off-Road Expo? Is that the same? Any of those weekends the same? Do you know?
No, we did it a different weekend. The
Okay.
Off-Road Expo is the weekend after.
Okay.
Hence the reason why we did it in September.
Well, and I was just thinking out loud, if some of our teams are out there, maybe we can get them at the Off-Road Expo or the Sand Sports show,
Yeah.
which will be there
Yeah.
again. And that's something, you and I circle around later, because if we're doing these events and I'm getting Keegan or CJ or Johnny's truck at it, give me some information about the series, some sort of pizza board or something, and I'll put up in the booth to just okay, why is this badass truck here? Well, because they race at Championship Off-Road. So that we'd love to put up, why it's here and what does it do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And again, I mean, yeah, of course, there's not every, well, I don't know, bad publicity is good publicity. Again, it's just people talking and raising awareness, especially at, we haven't raced there in a long time, or Short Course hasn't raced there in a long time. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement about it. And at the end of the day, I think if we can all just send a message of the event's going to happen, we're hoping you come out and check it out. Even if you're just a fan, I think it'll go a long way.
Ryan, you going to Glen Helen?
You know it. I think I literally have a list of over 200 people that are asking for tickets and asking to attend, or asking for me to get them tickets. So yeah, we'll be at Glen Helen.
Yeah.
No, we're excited about it. Our team is excited about it. Obviously, we're a West Coast group. Well, I mean, that's where the team started at. Right now, we're on the East Coast, but just so many of the brands. I mean, just to name a couple of my big brands. Bill Stein and Toyo are right there on the West Coast. Tremor Wheels is right there on the West Coast. So they're obviously very excited to have us back there. A big part of us personally, if maintaining, keeping these brands involved is, let's go race in front of them once in a while. The president of Bill Stein doesn't always have the time to travel across the country to see a race, right? So given the fact that 30 plus brands, I think it's important for us to do an event there. Like you said, Sand Sports Super Show, the Expo, all those things are there. I mean, that's what our sport lives and breathes, is events like that. That helps us. So I mean, it's always good to have vehicles on display at those events and try to promote the good word of of Champ Off-Road, right? At the end of the day, all we all want is for it to succeed. Nobody wants to see the ship sink. And I understand there's certain things that hinder certain people from being able to travel or whatnot, but that's where I think, we all just need to work together. Types of discussions like that we're having tonight, with Carl. So Carl understands the situation too. Carl's a good guy. He's not out to make things harder on us. He wants to see this succeed. To see it fail, so he's going to do the necessary changes, or proper things to ensure that this thing continues to live. They got a very large investment in it. It's no different than, me and Chris investing into our race cars and our race programs. They're large investments, and we don't want to see these things dwindle away to nothing. So sometimes you have to step outside your comfort zone. Sometimes you have to make changes, whether it be a race team or a series. You just have to try to change with the times. I think that's where we're at right now.
So
Yes, definitely.
speaking of changing with the times, Ryan, we're talking a little bit about how you can provide value to your sponsors. And I feel like that's something that over time has definitely looked different than the old slap a sticker on the car and call it good. How are you planning on providing value to your sponsors through an expanded racing footprint?
Obviously, when we expand our racing footprint, it's easy to open them up to new markets, right? New demographics, new fans, new potential customers. Obviously, in pit activation has always been such a big part of not only short course off road but supercross and motocross. Giving a partner that's willing to spend some money for you to come race there, giving them a footprint that they can come out and display some of their products, or be a part of the midway. It's stuff like that obviously we do. And then not only that, but there's such a big part of motorsports nowadays is the B2B relationships and creating those B2B business opportunities amongst partners, right? So, you know, when we get to travel to these new markets, it's also introducing, new potential clients or partners, if you will, to your race program, to the existing partners you already have, right? So if we, you know, one example of us is our Chevrolet relationships, right? We're constantly trying to put Chevrolet and Bill Stein together in terms of how can they do business together, right? Those are big accounts. You can go all the way down to your smaller accounts. Excuse me. We have a water filtration company based out of California that is going to be attending Glen Helen, that is looking to attain or acquire business in the Midwest through the farm fields. So, I mean, it's a perfect opportunity right there to get some of these filtration companies, water filtration companies like we've found, get them out to some of these races and introduce them to some of the farmers, right? Some of the farmers that compete in our series and race, and try to make some of those connections. So it's just, you have to be creative, right? And you have to think about how, at the end of the day, you want to go race. How can a business like, say, Vision Wheel, how can they sell more wheels in order to give you some of that money to go race? It kind of comes down to simplicity like that when you think about it. So, um, that's always been kind of my mindset is business. Like, how do you help them sell more product? How do you help them make money, right? And if they can make money off you, or you can help put deals together, we're gonna sponsor you. It's not just about a sticker on a car anymore. Those days have left, long gone, and it's about everybody being successful together and making money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And I think
funny.
that,
I was
go
going to
ahead,
say, in
Todd.
our business, we've got a joke. Everyone comes up and says, "Hey, give me a free set of wheels. I'll rock a sticker, bro." That's the joke. I'll rock a sticker.
Yeah, that's a hard sales pitch nowadays, and you usually get the hard no quite quickly after that.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not buying you a set of wheels, buddy. Get away.
Exactly.
Now, I
Here's
think
a
that
koozie.
a lot of, so I think a lot of are the grass, right? And a lot of them, Chris, I know that you've worked your way up from that sports like buggy and from your relationships and your sponsorships from road to where you are now. Um, what advice do you have for the sportsman racers who don't have those active partnerships yet and are looking to start to build that value from the ground up?
Sorry, was that a question for me? You were breaking up like the whole
Yeah,
time. I
yeah,
did.
you were
Oh,
breaking up a lot. Yeah, I don't know.
so
Yeah, it
sorry.
breaks up quite a bit. Yeah.
That was I'm right next to her, so that was one for me about. I'll reiterate here if you guys can hear me.
Yeah,
Said
I got you.
work with the sportsman or advice for sportsmen or who want to potentially move up or even utilize the expanded footprint to
I think it's your guys'
from coming
connection.
it'll come together. But with the sportsman going out to Portland, there is so much to be said. If you can invest in yourself a little bit, get some signage out, get some banners out there of who you are, first off, and gain some fans in a local area. That's the first thing you can do, right? That's the most basic thing, and it's not expensive to get banners. I can hook you up with 20 different places just to get some signage out in front so people know who you are. The other thing is really trying to utilize those areas to network with different people. Maybe you go and practice down at Wheatland and you're like, hey, we should go out to dinner somewhere. Maybe go start small, find somebody local, a restaurant, and talk about what you're doing. Um, Go have the conversation with them. Maybe they want to come to the race, and then next year, maybe we return, they may want to be a part of the program. It's just, to me, it's very basic. Start small, but go at it in a sense of, I'm going to grow this. I want to look at this as something that's going to get bigger. The same way that we're kind of looking at doing an expanded footprint with going up to Glen Helen and everything. It's kind of the same thing. We have to start small and grow big. That's kind of how I positioned our program. I had dreams of being a professional driver. I had no idea how to achieve it. But investing in myself, understanding that if I learn and listen to the right people and um, try to truly understand the concepts of what, why, and how, and ask partners, marketing people, why do you do this? What is this about? What do you want in return? You're going to get a lot more answers. And if you just listen, right? Don't sell somebody something. Ask what they want first and understand that. So that's the biggest thing I can say is, if you're a sportsman, you're not off the table. You know, you can go and talk to companies, and companies are going to be excited. Most companies, and Todd, maybe you can attest to this or not, they invest in the person more than they invest in the the racing specifically that you're doing or what you're doing. A lot of it is about relationships. So build the relationships and go from there.
Yeah, that's got a lot to do with it because you have to match your company's values with the team, the family, and the series values also. And we've turned down some sponsorship opportunities that have probably worked out good for us, but doesn't match, what we want to do as a company. We're very fortunate. We're owned by two people, Roger and Deanie Miner. They own Vision Wheel 100%. They founded it. They still own it. They're still involved with every day decision makings. And I actually have two people above me. I've got John Matthew, our CEO, very smart, intelligent guy, and Roger Miner and Deanie Miner. That's it. That's our corporate board. So when we look at, who we help and who we sponsor, and full disclosure, if I could, I'd still be sponsoring Ryan Beat. We were on Ryan's truck for a couple of years there. He's a great team. I wish we could still do it, but we had to take our money elsewhere. And unfortunately, he was one of the last ones that we sponsored. And instead of, that's basically why we had to cut him and not sponsor him that year. I'm glad he found a new home, because his new wheel company, which he mentioned earlier, but I'm not going to, is still a good friend of mine, and they're great people. So we do look at that very heavily to make sure, because it's, at the end of the day, it's our logo on that truck. And if this guy's out there, pardon my language, but being an ass somewhere, getting arrested somewhere, I don't want to have that conversation with Roger or Deanie at any point in time.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. I wasn't out being an ass. Just kidding.
No, not on camera. Again, Ryan, I still wish we could be partners, but hey, it is what it is, buddy. I'm good for you and Jaime.
I get it. Yeah, yeah, I'm not a cheap date. I know that. But yeah, no, it's cool to see, that so many people are supportive of what Carl and Champ's got going on right now, and I think us as a sport and as a whole, we just have to be positive and support each other. We all got to work together, right? And I get it. Some of these bigger travel races may not lend themselves to sportsman racing, or at least Midwest sportsman racing. There's plenty of West Coast sportsman racing that maybe we have maybe when it comes to the sportsman side of things, that there's a West Coast series and then there's an East Coast series, or Midwest series, however you want to look at it. Maybe we have two different forms of, or two different segments of sportsman racing, so that these guys don't feel like they're left out by any means. But at the end of the day, we all just got to be supportive of each other and think about each other and try to make it best for not I, but everyone else. So as long as everybody else is able to do it and everybody can work together, I think that's going to be the biggest, most important key to moving forward, is everybody working together and being supportive and being positive. Positivity, man, it spreads like wildfire, but so does negativity. A lot of times that negativity hurts more than it helps.
Well, it's thinking about the sportsman's class. You know how the rivalry back when West Coast, Midwest was big. We had that big rivalry. Can you imagine if you had a robust sportsman's West Coast, East Coast guys? Man, talk about militant. We'd have to put cops up and barbed wire and keep them separated, and have to have shot collars
Yeah.
while they're
Now there's
racing. That'd be great. I'd pay to see that. Well,
absolutely.
what the West Coast guys would have an advantage because their trucks don't rust. We're out here in the Midwest trying to duct tape everything to keep the
Yeah,
fenders
more
on.
durable.
So you guys,
Mhm.
much better aerodynamics out on the West Coast. So we need some ballast and some horsepower out here.
That's
I
cool.
love this conversation about positivity. Yeah, here, how you all think we can peacefully disagree, right? There's a very vocal disagreement. To Ryan's point, that negativity, it does spread like wildfire, and sponsors see it. They see that, they take that as a risk, and they say, that's unstable. We're not investing there, right? So it really is in everybody's best interest to work together, the series, the sponsors, the racers. At minimum, is constructively work together to make this happen.
Here's something else to think about, guys. We all remember Greg Cazzo, rest in peace, hell of a guy, big red hat. We need another Greg. We need another big red hat. Cole texted me while we were doing this, Cole Mamer, and said, exactly that. We need that because there was so much of a benefit. And I know, Ryan, you did this a couple times. How cool was it a day or two before these races when Greg went and rounded you guys up? Come on, we're going to the Children's Hospital. Put your suit on. Let's go. Bring your swag and let's go see these kids. That's something we need to get back doing too, because Greg, nothing funnier. He putting that dumb rubber wig on, the dreadlock wig, and doing snow angels in the mud puddles if it rains. I mean, keep everyone happy, keep everyone excited. We need to
We
get a
need
big
a
red
hype
hat
man.
going again. What's that, buddy?
We need a hype man like Kazo was. Like he was the hype man, right? Like
Yeah.
there's that every sport. Every sport's got a hype man. We need that hype man, but also we need like introductions like Supercross does, you know what I mean? Or NASCAR. You notice that all of these professional racing organizations, they do introductions, right? Which hypes the crowd up. It just builds that intensity, it builds the drama, it builds the excitement. Everybody gets hyped for it. We just got to find a little hype, right? And we're not far off of it, but the more of the showman type stuff that we can do, I think is just going to help our sport. But you're right. We need a hype man for sure. I nominate you, Mr.
Yeah,
Robinson. I
Todd,
think
I was just thinking myself, we can get you the
I've
red
got
wig. No.
Well, the problem with that is when I'm not the only one sitting there screaming at Ricky G, you suck, people think I actually mean it. I don't mean it. I'm just giving them a hard time.
So when you say it to me, it's you mean it or you don't?
Well,
Good point.
no,
Good question.
not to
Good
change the
question.
subject, but let's change that subject.
Yeah.
Did we mention? I mentioned Redbud earlier, right? Let's talk about Redbud.
Yeah. I raced there on a motorcycle, professional motocross, and loved it and thought it was the most amazing thing ever. The most patriotic racetrack you could probably go to. And I feel like that red-blooded American would absolutely love every ounce of short course off road if it was to return there.
Well, that was Redbud was the first time that my parents let me go a weekend without them back in, I think I was a freshman in high school, so it was 84. And luckily we didn't have phones and cameras back then because I think I did things I probably shouldn't have. I don't remember a lot, but yeah.
I spoke with them about an event many times, and just every year that they did have the off-road event, it was pretty red in the financial. Like they just lost a lot of money. So I mean, I think there's still interest there, and maybe for the future. But it was like the motocross national so iconic. Like I've been there a bunch and stuff like that. It was hard to get to replicate that crowd to come to an off-roader. That's what I was told, obviously from
Yeah.
them.
Well, not to be a smartass, but the problem is if they don't know about it, they're not going to show up. Then I'll equate that to ERX as the same thing too. You know, the biggest uh, demographic area that the series goes to is the smallest gate. That's a problem. I mean, I look at it this way, and I don't want to harsh on you snowmobilers because I'm not. But how is it we can get how many people do they have showing up on the snowmobile race, freezing your butt off, watching sleds go around? You could do the same thing watching these really radical trucks going around in shorts, drinking beers, having a good time. I would rather do that myself. That's just myself personally, than go up there and to freeze my butt off watching sleds go around. If we can't get a bigger gate at ERX, we need to evaluate what we're doing to let people know that that's there. And I'll put it to you this way. So CWO, who exhibited at ERX last year, and I don't know if they went through you guys or if they went through the track, but that's the Custom Wheel Outlet, the great company, big customer of ours, and really good friends of ours. We invited those guys to come from the race, and they're in Avon, which I believe is half hour away from the
Yeah,
track.
not far.
Yeah, so they're headquartered out of Avon. When we invited them to come to the track, they said, how can you're racing there this weekend? There's no snow. No. This is off-road racing. This is trucks. Oh, now the race has been going on for probably 2 or 3 years prior. This is a wheel company a half hour away. They did not know about the race. That's what we need to fix. That's the thing that should make us all, aggravated and mad. And what do we do to fix that? That's the same thing as Redbud. That's the same thing as Wheatland, and that'll be the same thing as Glen Helen if we don't tell people that we're there.
Yeah.
Need to figure that out.
Yeah.
And if it's anything
One thing
that we can do, we'll do it.
Yeah, and one thing, like I agree with you totally, Todd. But there's one thing that we battle that a lot of people may not know when we go to ERX. Millville's on Sunday, the Outdoor National, and it's like an hour away. So it's like that's another thing. Yeah. Saturday now. It used to be Sundays.
Yeah, you're going.
Yeah, we can't. Yeah, so we can't battle that. Like we have to change that date of ERX somehow because all of those fans just from I mean Johnny's a moto guy. I'm a moto guy. There's a lot of guys in the sport of short course that are moto. They have tons of moto people right involved and fans that would like to come to our race, but when they do the toss up between moto or off-road trucks, they side with moto right now, you know what I mean, because they really haven't gotten a whole lot into it. So it's we can't double stack our weekends with events like that are so local and close, right? So I think that's a big thing, but I agree with you, Todd. We have to make sure that the local town and local people understand what we're doing there and what's going on and try to get them out.
That's interesting. The because we filming with two Formula Drift drivers over at Brainerd, And both of those guys are now, well, one of them kind of, but we,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm similar.
Yeah,
it's got to be our connection.
yeah, has to be. Yeah.
Yeah. If not, but working with these two guys, the Formula Drift drivers from Shakopee, and then I can't think of where Alec is from offhand. Anyways, two Formula Drift drivers, filmed with them at Brainerd, talked to people out around Brainerd, and they had no idea that ERX even existed as well. And these two drivers from Formula Drift now want to potentially get into off-road because of what we were doing. And I feel like that's something that we need to really start stimulating a lot more crossover in motorsports as well, no matter what.
When people see Brian's Pro 2 and it's just sitting there, they're thinking, oh, that's a cool truck. Is it a drifting truck? They don't know this thing jumps, 10 feet in the air, 160 foot. They don't know that there's, a quasi NASCAR motor in this thing until they sit next to it and see it. You got to get that. We got to get more eyes on the cool factor of the sport because it's there. Well, my son Drew, you guys know him. He works with us at the shows. I think it was at the 50th. He got 4 or 5 of his friends from this area to come up because he's hearing us talking about it. What we do on our weekends, and Crandon's so big and stuff. Those guys have come up now every time since, and they now have fan favorites. Hell, one of them even likes Ryan. I don't know why. He's a Ryan fan now. So, you get these guys interested in it, and they're all red-blooded American dudes. They're gonna love it. They're gonna want to get into the sport, and they're gonna want to be fans of it.
We're
Well, most
talking
importantly,
a
they're going to
lot.
want some money at Vision Wheel because
I give them a deal, but they do buy their products from us. Yes, they do.
that's what I
Luckily,
mean.
they all got jobs.
When a lot of these fans become fans. Well, that's the important part, right? At the end of the day, a lot of these fans become fans of Ryan Beat or whoever other drivers that they may become fans of. They brand well typically to the brands that are supporting Ryan Beat or whatever driver they become fans of, and then they go spend money, right? And that's what makes you guys money. So, it's important to have those, right? We have to have that.
Yeah.
Let's start to wrap things up. I've got one more question for you all, and that is, where do you see the future of short course racing? Is the sport headed for growth, or do we have some challenges to overcome?
Want me to go first?
Yeah.
Again, back to being positive of, I think this year is going to be really telling, to be transparent and honest, if Wheatland goes well and Glen Helen goes well, there's obviously room for growth and room for expansion. And, because that's going to bring in more awareness, more attention, more companies. So I think again, this is a pivotal year. If the Midwest does well, and it's tough out there. It's tough right now. People spending money and everything like that. And so I think this year is going to be a really good year or a pivotal year and beginning of growth. So yeah, I do believe in it. I do believe and I'm obviously privy to a lot of conversations for the future, 3 to 5 years and everything. And everything's very positive and continued growth. And so, yeah, I do believe, but I do also think that this year is going to be big and just in a good way, just to, again, haven't been to Wheatland in a long time. I hope the racers absolutely love it just the same. You get good fan base and, we can continue that on the schedule. And kind of even the same with Glen Helen. Hopefully, we not introduce, but reinvigorate the people that love short course off-road, that grew up around it, that went to Glen Helen, that went to Lake Elsinore, and went to all those places. And, again, get it back on the forefront of attention. So yeah, there's definitely room for growth, and I think this year will be important.
I'll go next. I think that I agree. I agree with what Carl said. I'm excited about going to Glen Helen. I hope it works out. I'm excited about going to Wheatland. I bring my fishing poles and we go down there. It's good fishing.
Okay.
I'm excited about that. I hope that this garners, more fans. So the bigger companies that can afford to take what we're giving and put another zero at the end. I told one team that we were a sponsor of and gave us the title sponsor. And they're like, hey, that's great, but I want you to find a bigger one and move my logo to the back of the truck because this needs to be a bigger logo. I just can't afford to do that. So, if we can get Ford back into it big time, Chevy, is helping out Ryan, but, big time, not sponsoring several teams. I'd love to see a Coca-Cola logo, a Pepsi logo, Tide logo. I'd love to see that because then we're going to get, dang, Ryan, how would you like to have heat races to get into the main event? How cool would that be? Now, I know we've got to do a lot. Ryan's thinking, are you going to come prep my truck in between these races? Well, if you can hire people and afford to do it, then we're
They're
looking
built to
good,
go
right?
longer. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm excited. I don't have the crystal ball. I can put my fan hat back on and start screaming and yelling what you should do Monday morning quarterbacks, but that's not my position to do. I just want this to be great for the business, and I want to have some place to go on the weekends and have fun.
I did have some great conversations with Ram Corporate a couple weeks ago. Things are changing dramatically over there, which
Yeah.
in a lot of ways is really good for us, and just that kind of whole motorsport. So hopefully everything kind of comes to fruition and turns out. But again, any brands, all brands, like what is that? Rising tide raises all ships. Like again, like just more people involved, more racers make money. The healthy this year, just again, it's all a win, and we all want the common goal. But again, it's working together, like you guys alluded to.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
No, I think this year's going to be good. I think this year's going to be, like Carl said, a turning year. I think we're going to crush it. To be honest with you, there's a lot of brands that are got their tippy toes involved and want to come into our sport a lot stronger than what they have been in the past or even ever before. They're just waiting to see how some of these expansions, happen or how they take place. Obviously, a lot of these people aren't dumb. They can read social media. So when people are being negative, it puts them on the fence too. But I think once they see how successful some of these other events and the expansion is, and other brands, it's like excuse me, but it's like the hot chick, right? In high school, right? Everybody wants the hot chick when she's the hot chick, right? So, when short course off road becomes the hot chick again, everybody wants involved. Everybody wants to be a part of it, and that's what's going to happen, right? So, as short course starts to expand again, we get a better TV package, and all these things start to align that Carl has in place. I think you're going to see the sport flourish and explode again. I think we're, like Carl said, the tide's rising and the ships are going to rise with it. So we're just on the brink of greatness here. This year was a big year, making this expansion and doing some of the things that he chose to do. But I think it was necessary, and I think we'll be rewarded for it. Based off involvement of other brands, other tracks, other racers getting back involved. I'm excited for this year, and I'm excited for what the next couple of years have to bring with some of the changes that are going on. I hope and wish it nothing but the best, and look forward to partaking and supporting it as much as I can.
One other thing real quick that I was going to mention earlier and I didn't, but this comes back to the fan side of me is, we have some good personalities in the sport. We have some good conflicts, some healthy conflicts, and we need to put that out there because the human element of this race, perfect example, Ryan and Doug Matag at the end of the King of Hammers race. Now, I'm not going to say that I walked up to Doug and whispered, "You're going to take that from Ryan," and walked away. I'm not going to say that I said that. But that type of, in your face, it was a good race and we're going to get heated after the race. People love that. They want to see that. You know, they want they want the Earnhardt attitude. You know, they want the Waltrip attitude, and we've got that in the sport. So, Carl, here's another task: figure out how to put these guys out there. This, you know, Carl and Todd, we're not the face of Champ. Ryan, Keegan, CJ, Jimmy, Cole, Corey, all the Greaves clan. Those are the guys that we need to, you know, when lightly call Ricky G, wreck him Ricky sometimes, but again, love the kid. When he's out there kicking some butt, making people mad, not that he came in second should be the story. Him getting people mad should be the story. Play that up. Obviously, don't cross the line and make sure we got no firearms in the cockpit of these vehicles, but you know, ruffle some feathers. People want to see that. That's what's gonna, you know, really get people's juices flowing and wanting to see the drama for next week.
Having those stories, true or fabricated, told as well. I think that's something that could really sell our sport.
Yep.
Awesome.
If there's
Well,
nothing
I do
going
wanna-
on,
Yeah, you gotta
make something
create-
up.
You got to create the super, you know, villains and superheroes within the sport, right? That's what, you know, Supercross has done. You know, that's what.
There went Ryan.
We got it back.
For taking the time to bring your expertise in front of everybody. I'm gonna sign us off for today, but a second afterwards. So much for just putting yourselves out there and being open and honest with everyone.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
We are stopped. Yay, internet.
You guys should get what do you have for internet?
Starlink, and I don't know what's going on with it right now. It has been nothing but inconsistent, and we've had a lot with it.
Yeah.
I thought it was mine.
Yeah. Honestly, every time you guys talked, I don't know if it was just too much